The stars looked different that morning when Jake Morrison stepped out of his command pod on Mars. He had been running the Red Planet colony for 3 years now and knew every crater and dust storm by heart. Something felt wrong, though he could not put his finger on it. The communication array was picking up strange signals from the outer edge of the solar system. Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Park was reviewing daily reports at Luna Station when her aide rushed into the command center. The young officer's face was pale as he handed her a datapad with trembling hands. Park read the message twice before the words truly sank in. An enormous fleet of unknown ships had appeared near Pluto's orbit. The ships were massive, larger than anything humans had ever built, and they were heading straight for Earth. Captain Ryan Carter had been monitoring deep space from Sentinel-7 for 5 boring years. Nothing ever happened out here except the occasional asteroid or comet. When his sensors started screaming warnings, he thought it was just another malfunction. The repair crew had been promising to fix the old detection grid for months, but when he looked at his screens, Carter's blood ran cold. 50,000 ships, each one the size of a city, were moving through space in perfect formation. The alien vessels looked like nothing in human databases. They seemed to be alive, with hulls that pulsed like giant hearts and weapons that glowed with organic light. Carter had seen plenty of Earth's warships, and these things made them look like toys. He grabbed his communication headset and started, broadcasting on every emergency frequency he could reach. War Prime Thaktar stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled with satisfaction. His scouts had told him that the humans were a young species with primitive technology. They lived on only 2 worlds and had barely reached their nearest planet. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 different species across 12 star systems. None had lasted more than a few days once his fleets arrived. The humans would be no different. Thaktar had brought his entire war fleet because the Emperor wanted to make an example of Earth. Other species watching from across the galaxy would see what happened to those who expanded too quickly without asking permission from their betters. The humans would surrender within hours of seeing his ships, just like all the others. Admiral Park's command center became a storm of activity as reports flooded in from across the solar system. The alien fleet was so large that multiple observation stations were tracking different sections of it. Earth's defense satellites were coming online, but Park knew they were not designed to handle anything like this. The planet's orbital weapons had been built to stop asteroids and small pirate raids, not an invasion force that could blot out the stars. Dr. Helen Chang was Earth's leading expert on possible alien life, but she had always hoped first contact would be peaceful. The ships approaching Earth were clearly built for war. She studied the images coming in from the outer system telescopes and felt her stomach turn. The aliens had brought enough firepower to turn Earth into a burning rock. Their technology looked hundreds of years ahead of anything humans had developed. Morrison received the emergency transmission on Mars and immediately called his senior staff together. The colony had 12,000 people and exactly 0 military weapons. They had mining equipment and construction tools, but nothing that could fight off an alien invasion. The transport ships that brought supplies from Earth were not due back for another 6 months. Mars was on its own. The Zephyrian War Prime opened a communication channel to all human settlements. His voice echoed across Earth's radio networks, Mars colony broadcasts, and every ship in the solar system. The translation computers worked frantically to convert his words into human languages. When the message finally came through clearly, every person listening felt a chill run down their spine. The aliens gave humanity 72 hours to surrender completely. Every human government would dissolve. Every military force would stand down. Every weapon would be destroyed. The human species would become slaves of the Zephyrian Empire, just like dozens of other conquered races. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of all human worlds and colonies. Thaktar expected the humans to respond with pleas for mercy or offers to negotiate. Every other species had tried to bargain for better terms or asked for more time to consider surrender. The humans were probably having emergency meetings right now to decide which leaders would grovel before his throne. The War Prime settled back in his command chair and waited for the predictable response. Admiral Park stood in front of the communication array and looked directly into the camera. Her message would be broadcast to every human settlement and transmitted to the alien fleet. Behind her, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung side by side. She thought about her daughter attending university in New York and her son serving on a mining ship near Jupiter. Both of them were counting on her to keep them safe. When Park finally spoke, her voice was calm and steady. She told the alien, War Prime, that humanity had received his ultimatum and considered it carefully. Earth's government had met in emergency session and reached a unanimous decision. The Admiral paused for a moment, then delivered humanity's response in 3 simple words that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The alien fleet continued toward Earth, confident that fear would break human resistance before the shooting started. Thaktar had seen it happen dozens of times before. Species that talked tough always crumbled when they saw his ships up close. The humans would be begging for mercy within days. But something was different this time. Instead of panic and chaos, the inner solar system was buzzing with purposeful activity. Human ships were moving into defensive positions. Military bases were powering up weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Earth's orbital platforms were loading ammunition that engineers had hoped they would never need to use. Morrison watched the alien fleet through his telescope and made a decision that would change everything. Mars might be isolated and defenseless, but it was not helpless. The colony had equipment that could be turned into weapons if someone was creative enough. He called his chief engineer and told him to start converting mining charges into something more deadly. If the aliens wanted Mars, they were going to have to fight for every grain of red dust. The 72-hour deadline was approaching fast, and neither side was backing down. Thaktar began to feel something he had not experienced in decades of conquest. For the first time since leaving Zephyrian space, the War Prime was not completely certain his fleet would win easily. The alien fleet reached Jupiter's orbit exactly 72 hours after delivering their ultimatum. Thaktar had expected human leaders to be waiting with surrender documents, but instead, his sensors detected hundreds of small craft moving to intercept his advanced ships. The War Prime laughed when he saw how tiny the human vessels were compared to his massive dreadnoughts. It would be like insects attacking elephants. Lieutenant Commander Sam Brooks strapped himself into the cockpit of WASP-1 and ran through his final equipment checks. The experimental fighter had been designed to test new engine technology, not fight alien invaders. But it was the fastest thing humans had ever built. Brooks had volunteered for this mission because someone needed to find out what these aliens could do in a real fight. The first engagement happened near Europa when Brooks and his squadron encountered a Zephyrian patrol group. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, firing energy weapons that lit up space like deadly fireworks. Brooks had expected to die within minutes, but something strange happened instead. The aliens flew like they were following a textbook, predictable and careful. Human pilots trained for chaos and confusion, not neat formations. Brooks rolled his fighter into a wild spiral that no sane pilot would attempt near a gas giant's gravity well. The alien ships tried to track him, but their targeting systems could not predict such erratic movement. He slipped between their defensive fire and launched every missile he carried at their command vessel. The Zephyrian ship exploded in a shower of organic debris that looked disturbingly like blood and bone. Back on Earth, Dr. Chang was studying the first pieces of alien wreckage that recovery teams had managed to collect. What she found changed everything humans thought they knew about their enemies. The ships were not just built with organic technology, they were actually alive. The hulls were made of engineered biological material that could heal small damage and adapt to different environments. More importantly, Chang discovered something about the Zephyrians themselves. The alien bodies recovered from the wreckage showed clear signs of being herbivores who had evolved on a peaceful world. Their bones were light and fragile, their muscles were designed for grasping rather than fighting, and their brains showed no signs of the aggressive instincts that had driven human evolution for millions of years. Engineer Corps Chief Danny Rodriguez was working around the clock to understand how the alien technology functioned. The biomechanical systems were incredibly advanced, but they operated on principles completely different from human engineering. Rodriguez realized that the aliens had never needed to build weapons for fighting other predators. Their technology was designed for conquest, not warfare against equally aggressive species. The pattern of early battles started to worry Thaktar more than he wanted to admit. His ships were winning most engagements, but the victories were costing far more than expected. Human pilots fought like madmen, taking risks that should have been suicidal but somehow worked. They attacked damaged ships instead of retreating, rammed larger vessels when they ran out of ammunition, and used tactics that no civilized species would consider. Captain Morrison was turning Mars into a fortress, using every piece of equipment the colony possessed. Mining charges became improvised bombs, construction mechs were fitted with welding tools that could cut through metal, and the mass drivers used for launching ore shipments were being converted into long-range weapons. The Red Planet might fall to the aliens, but Morrison was determined to make them pay a terrible price for it. The second major battle happened when a Zephyrian strike force tried to bypass Earth's outer defenses. Admiral Park had positioned her ships in what looked like a weak formation, and the aliens took the bait. When they moved in for what should have been an easy victory, they found themselves trapped in a carefully planned ambush. Human ships attacked from all sides, using the confusion to get close enough for weapons that could penetrate alien shields. Dr. Rodriguez made a breakthrough when he figured out how to interface human computers with captured alien biotechnology. The organic systems were incredibly powerful, but they had never been designed to work with silicon-based electronics. By combining both technologies, human engineers created hybrid weapons that could adapt and learn from each battle. The aliens had given humanity the tools for their own destruction. Brooks was leading another squadron against alien positions near the asteroid belt when he discovered their most critical weakness. The Zephyrian ships were all connected through quantum communication links that let them coordinate perfectly. But when one ship was damaged badly enough, its biological systems would broadcast distress signals that disrupted the entire network. A single crippled vessel could paralyze dozens of others. The aliens began to realize they had made a terrible mistake in their intelligence gathering. The humans were not a weak agricultural species ready for harvest. They were persistence hunters, who had evolved to track down and kill anything that threatened them. Every human military tradition, from ancient warfare to modern tactics, was built around the idea of fighting enemies who were bigger, stronger, or more numerous. Thaktar called an emergency meeting with his fleet commanders and demanded to know how a primitive species was inflicting such heavy losses. His generals had no good answers. The humans should have been overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology, but instead, they were adapting faster than anyone thought possible. Every defeat taught them something new about Zephyrian weaknesses. Chang's made another disturbing discovery when she examined alien prisoners captured during boarding actions. The Zephyrians were not just physically weak, they were completely unprepared for individual combat. Their species had developed advanced technology to avoid having to fight at all. When forced into hand-to-hand battle, a single human soldier could defeat multiple alien warriors. The tide of war was shifting in ways that neither side had expected. The Zephyrian Empire had brought overwhelming force to crush a primitive enemy, but the humans were proving to be unlike any species they had ever encountered. Instead of surrendering or fleeing, humanity was learning to fight back with increasing effectiveness. Rodriguez and his team succeeded in creating the first human-alien hybrid weapons just 3 weeks after the invasion began. The new systems combined human engineering with Zephyrian biotechnology to produce weapons that were more powerful than anything either species had built alone. Earth's factories began producing the hybrid systems as fast as possible. Morrison launched the first attack from Mars, using his improvised railguns to hurl chunks of asteroid at near light speed toward the approaching alien fleet. The projectiles were too small for enemy sensors to track but moved fast enough to punch through even the strongest biomechanical hulls. Mars was no longer just a target waiting to be conquered. The alien invasion that was supposed to end in 3 days had been raging for a month, and Thaktar was beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. Half his fleet was either destroyed or too damaged to fight effectively. The humans were not just resisting, they were winning. Reports from across the solar system told the same impossible story. Wherever Zephyrian forces encountered human defenders, the battles were brutal and costly. Morrison stood on the observation deck of Mars Central and watched his railguns fire another salvo toward the alien fleet trying to establish orbit around the red planet. The massive chunks of iron and rock accelerated to incredible speeds before smashing into enemy vessels with the force of nuclear weapons. The aliens had expected to land troops on Mars within hours of arrival, but instead they were being systematically destroyed by converted mining equipment. Major Chris Allen was leading his squadron on what everyone assumed would be a suicide mission against the Zephyrian command ship. The massive vessel was 10 times larger than anything in Earth's fleet, and protected by hundreds of smaller escort craft. Allen had volunteered because someone needed to test a new weapon that Dr. Chang's team had developed specifically for attacking alien bioships. The weapon was simple in concept, but devastating in practice. Earth's biologists had created a modified virus that attacked the organic components of Zephyrian technology. When introduced into an alien ship's biological systems, the virus would spread rapidly and cause catastrophic failures throughout the vessel. The problem was getting close enough to deploy it against a heavily defended target. Allen and his pilots used every trick they had learned from fighting the aliens over the past month. They approached from the direction of the sun to hide in the solar glare, used debris from previous battles as cover, and flew in patterns so chaotic that enemy targeting computers could not predict their movements. 3 fighters were lost before they reached the command ship, but Allen managed to get close enough to fire his special payload. Dr. Kevin Turner had spent weeks developing the bioweapon that Allen was carrying. Turner was Earth's leading expert on bacterial warfare, though he had never imagined using his knowledge against aliens whose ships were literally alive. The virus he created was designed to be incredibly aggressive, attacking the complex proteins that held Zephyrian biotechnology together. The effect was more dramatic than anyone had hoped. Within minutes of infection, the alien command ship began to convulse like a dying animal. Its organic hull started to rot and dissolve, exposing the crew compartments to the vacuum of space. Emergency escape pods launched in all directions as the massive vessel literally fell apart around its occupants. But the real surprise came when the virus spread to other ships in the fleet through their quantum communication links. The biological connections that allowed perfect coordination between vessels also provided a pathway for infection. Ship after ship began to show signs of the same devastating plague that was destroying their command vessel. Commander Rachel Stone led the first human boarding party onto a disabled Zephyrian dreadnought that had been crippled by the bioweapon. Her team was prepared for fierce resistance from alien marines, but what they found instead shocked everyone. The Zephyrians were weak, confused, and completely unprepared for close combat with humans who had evolved from predatory ancestors. Soldiers moved through the alien ship like wolves among sheep. The Zephyrians had advanced energy weapons, but they were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not fighting in narrow corridors. Human assault rifles and combat knives proved devastatingly effective against enemies who had never learned to fight as individuals. Within an hour, Stone's team had captured the entire vessel and taken hundreds of prisoners. The intelligence gathered from captured aliens revealed the scope of Zephyrian miscalculation. Their empire had expanded by conquering peaceful herbivorous species who surrendered rather than fight. They had never encountered a civilization like humanity, where every person was descended from hunters who had spent millions of years perfecting the art of killing. The aliens had expected to face farmers and found themselves battling wolves instead. Admiral Park reviewed the battle reports and realized that humanity had reached a turning point in the war. The alien invasion force was not just being stopped, it was being systematically destroyed. Zephyrian ships that had seemed invincible a month ago were now falling to human weapons at an accelerating rate. The time had come to shift from defense to offense. Morrison received new orders from Earth Command, authorizing him to begin offensive operations against alien positions throughout the outer solar system. Mars was no longer just defending itself, it was becoming a forward base for hunting down enemy survivors. The mining ships that brought ore from the asteroid belt were being converted into assault vessels armed with the new hybrid weapons. Dr. Chang made another breakthrough when she discovered how to reverse the alien bioweapon to work in humanity's favor. Instead of just destroying Zephyrian ships, the modified virus could be programmed to take control of their biological systems. Human technicians could literally hijack alien vessels and turn them against their former masters. The psychological impact on the remaining Zephyrian forces was devastating. Ships that had been damaged by human attacks were no longer just disabled. They were being turned into weapons against their own fleet. Alien crews began destroying their own vessels, rather than risk having them captured and converted by human bioweapons. Thaktar found himself commanding a fleet that was disintegrating around him. The humans had not just learned to fight back, they had become better at using Zephyrian technology than the Zephyrians themselves. Every day brought new reports of impossible human victories and devastating alien losses. The War Prime began to understand that his invasion had become a disaster of historic proportions. The battle for the asteroid belt became a turning point when human forces used captured alien ships to attack Zephyrian supply lines. Morrison led a fleet of converted bio-vessels in a surprise assault that destroyed the enemy's main logistics base. Without supplies from the outer system, the remaining alien forces near Earth began to run short of ammunition and spare parts. Allen was promoted to squadron leader after his successful attack on the command ship and given command of the first all-human unit flying captured Zephyrian fighters. The biomechanical craft were incredibly advanced, but they responded to human pilots in ways their original designers had never intended. Aggressive flying techniques that would have been impossible with traditional technology became devastating. New tactics. Stone's boarding specialist developed new methods for capturing alien vessels intact. Instead of destroying enemy ships, human forces began systematic campaigns to seize Zephyrian technology and turn it against its creators. The aliens found themselves facing their own weapons operated by enemies who had no restraint or mercy. Turners. Bioweapons became more sophisticated with each new version. The latest variants could not only destroy alien ships, but reprogram their biological systems to obey human commands. Entire Zephyrian squadrons would suddenly turn on their companions as human-controlled viruses took over their vessels. The war that was supposed to end with human surrender had become a nightmare for the Zephyrian Empire. Their invasion force was being consumed by an enemy that fought with a ferocity they had never encountered before. Worse, the humans were learning to use alien technology better than the aliens themselves could. Thaktar stared at the tactical display showing what remained of his once mighty invasion fleet and felt something his species had no word for. Fear was an emotion that peaceful herbivores rarely experienced, but the War Prime was learning what it meant to be hunted by a superior predator. Only 15,000 ships remained from the 50,000 that had entered this cursed solar system, and the humans showed no intention of allowing any to escape. Admiral Park had made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations. The Zephyrian fleet would not be allowed to retreat and report back to their empire. Every alien ship in the solar system would be destroyed or captured. Earth could not risk word getting back to other hostile species about human capabilities and weaknesses. The message had to be clear and absolute. Morrison was leading the Mars Defense Corps in a pincer movement designed to trap the remaining alien forces between Earth and the Red Planet. His converted mining ships had been joined by a growing fleet of captured Zephyrian vessels, all operated by human crews who had learned to pilot biomechanical craft with deadly efficiency. The aliens were discovering that their own technology was far more dangerous in human hands. The hunt for surviving enemy ships had become a systematic extermination campaign. Human forces were using captured alien sensors to track down every Zephyrian vessel, trying to hide in the outer system. Advanced bioweapons ensured that disabled ships could not repair themselves or call for help. The organic hulls that had once been the aliens' greatest advantage were now their fatal weakness. Pilot Tony Garcia had become humanity's leading alien ship killer with over 200 confirmed victories. His modified fighter incorporated the best features of human engineering and captured Zephyrian technology, creating a hybrid weapon that was more effective than anything either species had built alone. The tactics Garcia developed were being copied by human pilots throughout the solar system. The Garcia maneuver had become the standard attack pattern for engaging alien vessels. The technique involved a high-speed spiral approach that exploited the slower reflexes of herbivorous alien pilots. Human fighters would accelerate toward enemy ships in unpredictable patterns, then delivered devastating close-range attacks before the aliens could respond effectively. The maneuver worked because humans had evolved the split-second timing needed for successful hunting. Dr. Chang's latest bioweapon was the most terrifying yet created. The synthetic virus could not only destroy or control alien ships, it could transmit itself back to the Zephyrian home fleet through quantum-entangled communication systems. Every message sent by the invasion force was now potentially carrying a deadly infection that would spread throughout the alien empire's entire military network. The psychological warfare aspect was just as important as the physical destruction. Surviving Zephyrian crews were broadcasting desperate warnings to their homeworlds, describing humans as a species of unstoppable killers who showed no mercy and felt no fear. The messages painted Earth as a death world populated by monsters, who turned alien technology against its creators with impossible skill. Morrison's forces had perfected the art of ship capture and conversion. Human boarding parties would seize control of damaged alien vessels, then use bioweapons to reprogram their systems for human operation. The converted ships retained all their advanced capabilities, but gained the aggressive tactical doctrine that made human forces so effective. Former Zephyrian dreadnoughts were now hunting their previous companions. The aliens' quantum communication network, once their greatest strategic advantage, had become a liability that threatened their entire civilization. Human-controlled viruses were spreading through the network faster than Zephyrian technicians could develop countermeasures. Ships throughout the galaxy were beginning to show signs of infection as the bioweapons reached across interstellar distances. Captain Victoria, Bell commanded the pursuit vessel Retribution, one of the first human ships built using purely alien technology. The biomechanical craft was faster and more heavily armed than anything in Earth's original fleet, but it responded to human tactical instincts in ways that amazed even its builders. Bell was leading the hunt for enemy survivors trying to escape toward the outer planets. The remnants of the Zephyrian fleet had fragmented into small groups trying to reach the edge of the solar system where they could jump to hyperspace. But human forces were everywhere, using captured alien sensors and communication systems to coordinate pursuit operations across millions of cubic kilometers of space. There was nowhere for the invaders to hide. Alan's squadron of converted alien fighters had become the tip of the spear for hunting operations. The biomechanical craft could operate for weeks without resupply, and their organic hulls could repair battle damage automatically. In human hands, these advantages made the fighters nearly unstoppable. Alan's pilots were racking up kill counts that would have been impossible with traditional Earth technology. The war had evolved into something that neither species had expected. What began as a conventional invasion had become a demonstration of humanity's unique position in the galaxy. Other species developed advanced technology to avoid conflict, but humans had spent millions of years perfecting the art of violence. When those instincts were combined with alien science, the result was devastating. Daktar received his final communication from the Zephyrian home fleet, ordering him to retreat immediately and report on human capabilities. But the War Prime knew that escape was impossible. Human forces controlled every route out of the solar system, and their bioweapons were already spreading through quantum networks toward Zephyrian space. The invasion had become a complete disaster. Turner's research team had developed bioweapons that could target specific Zephyrian genetic markers, ensuring that the viruses would only affect alien biology. The weapons were designed to be absolutely lethal to any member of the species that had dared to threaten Earth. There would be no possibility of immunity or adaptation. The message would be written in the DNA of every Zephyrian who encountered human bioweapons. Stone's boarding specialists had captured enough alien technology to reverse engineer the quantum communication systems. Human scientists were now able to monitor Zephyrian transmissions across the galaxy and inject their own bioweapons into alien networks. The invasion force's own communication equipment had become a weapon aimed at the heart of their civilization. The final phase of the extermination campaign began when human forces surrounded the last concentration of alien ships near Neptune. The surviving Zephyrians had gathered together for protection, but their formation only made them easier targets for the bioweapons that could spread through their interconnected systems. One by one, the great ships that had come to conquer Earth began to die in the cold darkness of the outer system. Rodriguez had perfected the hybrid technology that allowed human engineers to build weapons more advanced than anything either species had created independently. The new systems combined human tactical thinking with alien biomechanical capabilities to produce weapons that were specifically designed for hunting down and destroying Zephyrian technology. Earth was no longer just defending itself, it was preparing to carry the war to the aliens' homeworlds. The last Zephyrian ship died in the cold darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, its biomechanical hull dissolving under the assault of human-engineered viruses. Captain Victoria Bell watched from the Bridge of Retribution as the alien dreadnought came apart like a rotting carcass, its organic components liquefying and streaming away into space. The great invasion force that had come to conquer Earth was now nothing but debris scattered across the solar system. War Prime Thaktar's final transmission reached Zephyrian space 3 weeks after his flagship was destroyed. The message was brief and filled with a terror that no member of his species had ever experienced before. He warned his people never to return to this system, never to threaten the humans again, and never to underestimate a species that could turn their own technology against them with such devastating effectiveness. Admiral Park stood in the command center of Luna Station and reviewed the final casualty reports. In less than 2 months, humanity had completely annihilated an invasion force of 50,000 ships without losing a single planet or major population center. The aliens had expected to conquer Earth in a matter of days, but instead they had given humanity the greatest technological advancement in the species' history. Morrison was overseeing salvage operations throughout the solar system as human recovery. Teams collected the wreckage of thousands of alien vessels. The debris field contained enough advanced technology to leap human civilization forward by centuries. Biomechanical engineering, quantum communication systems, faster-than-light travel, and weapons that could reshape matter at the molecular level were all being studied and reverse-engineered by Earth's scientists. Dr. Chang had become the leading expert on Zephyrian biotechnology and was working around the clock to understand how the alien systems functioned. The organic computers and self-repairing hulls were incredibly sophisticated, but they had been designed by a peaceful species that never expected to face aggressive opposition. In human hands, the same technology became far more deadly than its creators had ever imagined. The first human interstellar ships were already under construction in orbital shipyards around Earth and Mars. These vessels combined the best features of human engineering with captured alien technology to create hybrid craft that were superior to anything either species had built independently. The ships were not being designed for exploration or trade, but as weapons of war capable of carrying the fight to any species that might threaten humanity. Rodriguez led the engineering teams that were adapting Zephyrian hyperspace drives for human use. The alien faster-than-light technology was based on biological quantum tunneling that could transport ships across interstellar distances almost instantly. Human modifications to the system made it faster and more reliable than the original Zephyrian version, giving Earth's new fleet capabilities that would surprise any alien civilization. Intelligence Officer Nathan Price was monitoring communications, intercepts from across the galaxy as word of the Zephyrian disaster spread to other species. The messages painted a picture of growing fear and respect for humanity throughout known space. Civilizations that had never heard of Earth were now discussing whether humans should be avoided entirely or approached with extreme caution. The psychological impact of the invasion's complete failure was spreading faster than the bioweapons that had destroyed the alien fleet. Species that had considered expanding into human space were abandoning those plans. Trade routes were being rerouted to avoid the solar system. Diplomatic missions that might have contacted Earth were being canceled indefinitely. Turner's bioweapons had evolved beyond their original purpose of destroying alien ships. The latest versions could reprogram any biological system they encountered, making them effective against a wide range of potential alien species. The weapons were designed to be absolutely lethal to any life form that was not genetically human, ensuring that Earth would never again face an invasion by organic enemies. The captured Zephyrian prisoners provided valuable intelligence about the broader galactic community. Humanity learned that their solar system was located in a region of space where dozens of advanced civilizations competed for resources and territory. The Zephyrian Empire was just one of many potential threats, but word of their complete destruction was already deterring other aggressive species. Morrison received authorization to begin construction of forward military bases throughout the outer solar system. These installations would serve as early warning stations and launch points for human operations beyond Earth's immediate neighborhood. The bases would be equipped with the most advanced hybrid technology available, making them capable of detecting and intercepting threats from interstellar distances. Allen was promoted to command the first squadron of purely alien technology, fighters that had been completely rebuilt by human engineers. The biomechanical craft retained their self-repair capabilities and quantum communication systems, but they had been modified with human weapons and tactical systems that made them far more effective in combat than their original design. Stones, boarding specialists, had become experts at capturing and converting alien technology for human use. Their techniques were being taught to military units throughout the solar system as preparation for future conflicts with unknown alien species. The assumption was that any civilization capable of interstellar travel would eventually pose a threat to humanity, so Earth needed to be ready to turn their own weapons against them. Bell was given command of the first human deep space exploration fleet, but her mission was not scientific discovery. The ships under her command were armed with the most advanced hybrid weapons available and tasked with locating potential threats before they could organize attacks against Earth. The fleet would serve as humanity's sword and shield in the darkness, between the stars. Dr. Chang's research into alien biology had revealed that most intelligent species in the galaxy were descendants of herbivorous prey animals who had developed technology to avoid conflict rather than engage in it. Humans were apparently unique as a spacefaring civilization that had evolved from predatory hunters. This gave humanity advantages in warfare that other species could not match or understand. The reconstruction of human civilization using captured alien technology proceeded at an incredible pace. Cities that had been damaged during the early stages of the invasion were rebuilt with biomechanical systems that could adapt and repair themselves. Earth's orbital infrastructure expanded rapidly as new facilities were constructed using hybrid engineering techniques. The message that humanity sent to the galaxy was written in the scattered remains of the Zephyrian invasion force. Any species, considering an attack on Earth, would first have to explain how they planned to succeed, where 50,000 advanced warships had failed so catastrophically. The complete annihilation of the alien fleet served as a warning that would echo across interstellar space for generations. Earth's transformation from a single-planet civilization to a galactic power had taken less than 3 months. The aliens, who came to conquer humanity, had instead provided the tools for human expansion into deep space. Within a year, human ships would be visiting the home worlds of species that had never imagined their victims might one day become their hunters. The Zephyrian Empire's attempt to add Earth to their collection of conquered worlds had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Instead of gaining new slaves, they had awakened a species of predators who now possessed technology advanced enough to threaten any civilization in the galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was just getting started.